I'm Sarah Mitchell, 24, and I've dreamed of becoming a doctor since I could pronounce stethoscope. For years, I worked multiple jobs, saving every penny in a joint account with my parents for medical school. My brother Tyler always got the spotlight while I got the leftovers of their attention. But nothing prepared me for checking my account and finding it completely empty right before tuition was due. What happened next at the Dean's Gala changed everything. Before I continue, where are you watching from today? If you've ever felt betrayed by the people who should support you most, hit subscribe and join me on this journey of heartbreak and unexpected triumph. Growing up in suburban Boston, my earliest memory is of unwrapping a toy doctor kit on my 5th birthday. While other kids played house, I conducted surgeries on my stuffed animals, carefully bandaging them afterward. By age 7, I could recite the major organs in alphabetical order, much to my father's amusement. Dad was a surgeon at Massachusetts General, often absent, but undeniably my hero. When he did come home, his stories of saving lives fascinated me, and I'd beg him to quiz me on human anatomy. "Sarah's going to follow in your footsteps, William," my mother would say, though her smile never quite reached her eyes. Mom was a painter who gave up her artistic pursuits after marriage. She spent most of her time managing our household with quiet efficiency, her creative spark dimming over the years. Then came Tyler, my brother, 3 years younger than me. From the moment he could hold a crayon, his artistic talent was evident. My parents' praise for his stick figures was excessive compared to their polite nods at my straight-A report cards. Still, I loved Tyler. We were different, but I thought we respected each other's paths. "You're so smart, Sarah," he'd say when I helped him with math homework. "But look what I made today." And just like that, my academic achievement would be overshadowed by his latest watercolor. High school solidified our family dynamics. I joined science clubs, volunteered at the local hospital, and maintained perfect grades. Tyler struggled academically but flourished in art, his paintings winning regional competitions. Dad, despite his medical background, attended every one of Tyler's art shows, but missed my science fair where I won first place 3 years running. "Your father's very busy," Mom would explain, "and Tyler needs the encouragement more than you do. You're naturally disciplined." After high school graduation, where I was valedictorian, my father proposed setting up a joint savings account for my medical school education. "Medical school is expensive," he explained. "Your mother and I want to help, but you'll need to contribute too. It'll teach you financial responsibility." I agreed immediately. Though hurt that they hadn't offered the same for Tyler's education, I understood medical school would cost significantly more than an art degree. Throughout my undergraduate years at Boston University, I maintained a perfect 4.0 GPA while working 3 jobs. Mornings at the campus coffee shop, evenings as a research assistant, and weekends as a hospital aide. Every paycheck went straight into that joint account, watching the balance grow with satisfaction. "You're working too hard," my roommate Jennifer would say. "You never have fun." "This is temporary," I'd reply. 4 years of sacrifice for a lifetime of doing what I love. I rarely went home during college, partly because of my work schedule, but also because the atmosphere had changed. My parents had converted our garage into an art studio for Tyler, who had decided to take a gap year after high school that somehow stretched into 3. "He's finding himself," Mom explained during one of my rare visits. "Artists need time to develop their voice." When I did visit, dinner conversations revolved around Tyler's latest artistic breakthrough, or the famous artist who had commented on his Instagram post. My research position and academic achievements warranted only cursory inquiries. Finally, in my senior year, the day arrived. I sat in my tiny apartment, hands trembling as I opened the email from Harvard Medical School. The acceptance letter brought tears to my eyes. All the work, all the sacrifice had paid off. I immediately called my parents. "I got in, Harvard Medical School. I actually got in!" I exclaimed. "That's nice, honey," Mom said, her voice oddly distant. "We're actually at Tyler's new gallery showing. Can we call you back?" They didn't call back that night, or the next day. I finally received a text suggesting, "We have dinner that weekend to celebrate." I drove home, expecting at least some enthusiasm in person. The celebration dinner felt performative. Dad ordered champagne but spent most of the meal showing me photos from Tyler's gallery event. Tyler himself sat quietly, picking at his food, barely acknowledging my achievement. "Harvard's expensive," Dad commented between bites. Even with your savings. I know, I replied. But the account has over 80,000 now. With loans, I should be able to manage the first year while I apply for scholarships. A strange look passed between my parents, but I was too excited to dwell on it. Tyler abruptly excused himself before dessert, claiming he needed to work on something important. As I drove back to my apartment that night, a small knot of unease formed in my stomach, but I pushed it aside. This was my moment, the beginning of my dream coming true. Nothing could possibly go wrong now. The summer after graduation, the dynamic in our family became increasingly strained. While I prepared for medical school, my parents attended 3 more of Tyler's art showcases. I wasn't invited to any of them, learning about them only through social media posts or casual mentions during our increasingly infrequent phone calls. "Your brother's developing quite a following," Mom gushed during one call. A gallery owner from Paris said his work shows extraordinary promise. Can you believe it? What I couldn't believe was how Tyler's attitude toward me had changed. During a family barbecue in July, he referred to my medical aspirations as conventional and boring. "Anyone can become a doctor if they study enough," he said, waving his hand dismissively. "But art? That requires actual talent." My parents didn't contradict him. Instead, Dad nodded thoughtfully while Mom refilled Tyler's wine glass with an approving smile. "Medicine is quite structured," Dad added. "Not much room for creative thinking." Coming from a surgeon, this statement was so absurd I nearly choked on my lemonade. But rather than causing a scene, I excused myself early and drove home in tears. In August, I met with Dr. Eleanor Winters, my pre-med advisor who had been a constant support throughout my undergraduate years. "Sarah, with your credentials, you should apply for the Westbrook Fellowship," she suggested. "It's highly competitive, but it would cover a significant portion of your tuition." "That would be amazing," I admitted. "Medical school starts in 3 weeks and I'm getting anxious about the finances." "Haven't you been saving?" she asked. "I remember you working yourself to exhaustion for years." "Yes, but Harvard is expensive. Even with my savings, I'll need additional support." Dr. Winters patted my hand. "Apply for the fellowship. You're exactly the kind of student they're looking for." That evening, I tried logging into the joint savings account to check the exact balance before completing my budget spreadsheet. To my surprise, the password had been changed. I called my father immediately. "Dad, I can't access our savings account. Has something happened?" "Oh, we updated all our passwords recently," he said vaguely. "Security concerns. I'll text you the new one tomorrow." The password never came. My follow-up texts went unanswered or received brief replies claiming he was in surgery or too busy to look it up. My mother was similarly evasive, suggesting I talk to your father about money matters. A week before medical school orientation, my parents invited me to dinner. My heart sank when I saw Tyler was joining us, his expression smug as he ordered the most expensive wine on the menu. "I have exciting news," he announced once our appetizers arrived. "I've been accepted to l'Académie des Arts in Paris. It's the most prestigious art school in Europe." My parents erupted in congratulations, my father actually tearing up with pride. "This is extraordinary, son. A once-in-a-lifetime opportunity." "When do you start?" I asked, trying to be supportive despite the gnawing feeling in my stomach. "Next week," Tyler replied casually. "It's last minute, but they had a cancellation and offered me the spot. The best part is, they loved my portfolio so much they're offering partial scholarship." "Partial?" I asked. "What about the rest of the tuition? Paris must be expensive." An uncomfortable silence fell over the table. My mother became intensely interested in her salad, while my father cleared his throat repeatedly. "Well," Tyler finally said with a shrug, "Mom and Dad are helping, obviously. We've always supported both your educations." Dad added quickly, "It's what parents do." "Speaking of which," I said, "I've been trying to access our account to finalize my budget for Harvard. Can we update the password tonight?" My father's face tightened. "Let's discuss that privately later, Sarah." The rest of dinner was strained. Tyler dominated the conversation with details about his Paris apartment and the famous artists who taught at the academy. My parents hung on his every word, asking questions about his planned art projects, while completely ignoring the fact that I was starting medical school the same week. As we were leaving the restaurant, I overheard my mother whispering to my father, "We need to tell her before she goes to the bank herself." "Not tonight," he replied tersely. She'll make a scene. Their words sent a chill through me. What exactly did they need to tell me? The next morning, I drove straight to the bank. Something was wrong, and I needed to know exactly what I was dealing with before orientation. The friendly teller asked for my ID and typed my information into the system. I'd like to check the balance on this joint account, I explained. Her expression changed subtly. One moment, please. Let me get the manager. The bank manager, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes, invited me into her office. Ms. Mitchell, I see you're inquiring about account number 8747930. Are you aware of the recent activity on this account? No, I replied, my heart racing. That's why I'm here. I haven't been able to access it online. She turned her computer screen so I could see it. The account currently has a balance of $42.17. There was a withdrawal of $87,000 3 days ago. The room seemed to tilt. There must be some mistake. That's my medical school fund. I've been saving for years. The withdrawal was authorized by both primary account holders, William and Elizabeth Mitchell. As a joint account, they have full access privileges. I left the bank in a daze, driving directly to my parents' house. Both their cars were in the driveway, along with Tyler's. I didn't bother knocking. What did you do? I demanded, finding them all in the kitchen having a leisurely breakfast. $87,000. My money. Where is it? My father set down his coffee cup calmly. Sarah, we need to discuss your future rationally. Rationally? You stole my money. I worked 3 jobs for 4 years for that money. We contributed to that account too, my mother interjected weakly. 20%. I put in 80% from my jobs, every penny I earned. My father stood up, his expression hardening. The truth is, Sarah, we don't think medical school is the right path for you. The statement hit me like a physical blow. What are you talking about? I've wanted to be a doctor my entire life. I got into Harvard. Getting in and succeeding are different things, he replied coldly. Your personality isn't suited for medicine. You're too emotional, too easily hurt. Medicine requires objectivity. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. So you stole my money because you decided I'm not cut out for being a doctor. After I worked for years? After I got into one of the best medical schools in the country? We didn't steal anything, my father snapped. It was a joint account, and we made a parental decision to invest in the child with the most promise. Tyler smirked from behind his coffee mug. Dad and Mom are supporting real talent, Sarah. My instructor says I'm once in a generation. Paris is expensive, my mother added, not meeting my eyes. The apartment, the supplies, the living expenses. But this opportunity for Tyler is too important to pass up. More important than my dream? More important than my future that I've worked for since I was a child? You can still be involved in healthcare, my father said dismissively. Maybe nursing or physician assistance, something less demanding. Tears of rage filled my eyes. You had no right to make that decision for me. No right to take my money. Your reaction right now? My father said coldly. The way you're crying and losing control proves my point. You don't have the temperament for medicine. This is wrong, and you know it, I said through clenched teeth. Tyler stood up, stretching lazily. Look, I need to pack. My flight leaves tomorrow morning. Sorry it didn't work out for you, but hey, at least one of us will make the family proud. Something broke inside me at his words. You're all unbelievable. I never thought my own family would betray me like this. Don't be so dramatic, my father sighed. You can take out loans like most students. School starts in 5 days. How am I supposed to arrange financing that quickly? Perhaps defer for a year, my mother suggested. Work and save up again. I stared at her in disbelief. Save up again? After you stole 4 years of my savings? My father's face hardened. That's enough, Sarah. Your emotional outburst just confirms what I've been saying. Perhaps this is a blessing in disguise. Better to learn now that you're not suited for medicine than after spending all that money. I looked at each of them, these people who were supposed to love and support me. My father, stern and unyielding. My mother, avoiding my gaze, a passive participant in this betrayal. And Tyler, barely containing his satisfaction at coming out on top once again. I will never forgive this, I said quietly. Never. I ran upstairs to my childhood bedroom and filled a suitcase with the remaining belongings I'd kept there: photos, books, mementos. As I was leaving, my mother tried to stop me. "Sarah, please understand. We're thinking of what's best for both our children." "No," I replied. "You're thinking of what's best for your favorite child. I'm just collateral damage." I drove straight to Jennifer's apartment, the only place I could think to go. She opened the door, took one look at my tear-stained face, and pulled me into a hug. "My parents emptied our joint account," I sobbed. "They gave my medical school money to Tyler for art school in Paris. $87,000. Gone." "They did what?" Jennifer guided me to her couch. "Can they even do that legally?" "It was a joint account," I said miserably. "Legally, they had access. I trusted them." "What are you going to do? Medical school starts next week." I stared at the ceiling, feeling hollow. "I don't know. I honestly don't know." The next 3 days were the darkest of my life. I moved my remaining belongings into Jennifer's spare room, too numb to plan beyond the immediate moment. Medical school orientation was just days away, and I had no idea how I would pay for it. "Maybe I should just give up," I told Jennifer one night, curled up on her couch in pajamas I hadn't changed for 2 days. "Maybe my dad is right. Maybe I'm not cut out for this." "That's the depression talking," Jennifer insisted. "You're the most disciplined, compassionate person I know. You'd make an incredible doctor." But her encouragement couldn't penetrate the fog of betrayal and doubt surrounding me. I'd stopped checking my phone after the 20th text from my mother, all variations of, "We just want what's best for you," without a single acknowledgement of what they'd done. On the day Tyler left for Paris, I scrolled through social media against my better judgment. There they were, the proud parents at the airport, beaming beside their artist son. My mother had captioned the photo, "Supporting our son's extraordinary journey, some dreams are worth every sacrifice." The irony was physically painful. With nothing to lose, I dragged myself to Harvard Medical School's financial aid office the next day. The officer listened sympathetically to my situation. "Unfortunately, Ms. Mitchell, most of our scholarship funds have been allocated for the year. You can apply for federal loans, but the process typically takes several weeks to finalize." "School starts in 3 days," I said hopelessly. "You might consider deferring for a year," she suggested, echoing my mother's words and making me wince. Left the office feeling even more defeated than when I'd entered. The campus buzz of excited new students only heightened my sense of loss. This was supposed to be my moment, the beginning of my journey, and instead, I was about to lose it all. Back at Jennifer's apartment, I opened my laptop to email the admissions office about deferment procedures. That's when I noticed a new message from an unfamiliar address: Dr. Collins, harvardmed.edu. "Dear Ms. Mitchell, I'm Dr. Abigail Collins, Dean of Harvard Medical School. Your pre-med advisor, Dr. Winters, has brought your situation to my attention. I'd like to meet with you tomorrow at 2 p.m. in my office to discuss potential options. Regards, Dr. Abigail Collins, MD, PhD Dean, Harvard Medical School." I read the email 3 times, certain it was some kind of mistake. Why would the Dean of Harvard Medical School want to meet with me? The next day, I arrived at the imposing administrative building 15 minutes early, my heart pounding. Dr. Collins's assistant showed me into an elegant office where a woman in her early 60s rose to greet me. "Sarah, thank you for coming. Please have a seat." Dr. Collins had the poised confidence of someone who had broken barriers in medicine when few women occupied leadership positions. Her silver hair was cut in a precise bob, and her penetrating gaze seemed to take my measure immediately. "Dr. Winters speaks very highly of you," she began. "Your academic record is exemplary, and your personal statement about wanting to serve underrepresented communities was one of the most compelling I've read this year." "Thank you," I managed, unsure where this was leading. "She also mentioned your current financial predicament." My face burned with shame. "It's a complicated family situation." Dr. Collins nodded. "Family complications are something I understand all too well." She paused, studying me. "I'm going to be direct, Sarah. I grew up with a father who believed women belonged in the kitchen, not the laboratory. When I was accepted to medical school, he refused to provide any financial information for my aid applications, effectively blocking me from receiving assistance. I looked up, surprised by her personal disclosure. "What I'm saying is, I understand what it's like to have family stand in the way of your medical career, and I'm not about to let a promising student like you slip through the cracks because of circumstances beyond your control. She slid a folder across her desk. I run a research lab studying cardiovascular regeneration in addition to my administrative duties. I need a research assistant, 20 hours per week. The position includes a stipend and partial tuition remission. I stared at her in disbelief. You're offering me a job? I'm offering you a fighting chance, she corrected. The work is demanding, the hours can be irregular, and my standards are exceptionally high. This won't solve all your financial concerns, but combined with loans, which my office will help expedite, it should make your first year feasible. Tears welled in my eyes. But these were different from the hopeless ones I'd been shedding for days. I don't know what to say. Say you'll work harder than you've ever worked before, Dr. Collins replied. Say you'll prove every doubt your father expressed completely wrong. I will, I promised fervently. I absolutely will. That evening I signed a lease on the smallest studio apartment I'd ever seen, 6 blocks from the medical school. The security deposit took nearly all my remaining savings, and the monthly rent would consume most of my research stipend. I would need to find weekend work to cover food and basic necessities. As I unpacked my few belongings in the tiny space, I felt something I hadn't expected to feel again so soon. Hope. It was fragile, but it was there. Medical school began the following Monday. While other students arrived with parents helping carry their belongings, I walked in alone, carrying a backpack containing my secondhand textbooks and a determination that burned like fire. The first weeks were brutal. Adjusting to the medical school curriculum while working in Dr. Collins's lab pushed me to my physical and mental limits. I survived on discount ramen and coffee, sleeping just 4 or 5 hours a night. But each morning, I woke up with a single thought: I will not let them win. Dr. Collins proved to be as demanding as she'd warned, but also surprisingly supportive. When she caught me falling asleep over a microscope after a 36-hour stretch of classes, studying, and lab work, she didn't reprimand me. My office has a couch, she said instead. Take 2 hours. I'll wake you for your next class. When, I protested, she fixed me with that penetrating stare. Sarah, determination is admirable. Martyrdom is foolish. A good doctor knows her limits. Gradually, I learned more about Dr. Collins's own journey. Like me, she had worked multiple jobs through medical school. Unlike me, she had done it while raising a younger sister after their mother's death. The odds were against me in every way, she told me one evening as we analyzed data together. Female, poor, family responsibilities. Do you know what kept me going? I shook my head. Pure, unadulterated spite, she said with a surprising grin. Every time someone said I couldn't do it, I became more determined to prove them wrong. Not the healthiest motivation, perhaps, but effective in the short term. I laughed for what felt like the first time in months. I can relate to that. But listen carefully, she continued, serious again. Spite will get you through the first year, maybe the second. But to sustain a medical career, you need to find a more nourishing motivation. For me, it became about the patients whose lives I could improve. Find your deeper purpose, Sarah. It will carry you when nothing else can. By the end of my first semester, I had not only survived but thrived. Despite my punishing schedule, I ranked in the top 10% of my class. The acute pain of my family's betrayal had dulled to a chronic ache, still present but manageable. I hadn't spoken to my parents since that awful day, though my mother continued to send texts on holidays and my birthday. Tyler occasionally posted about his transformative Paris experience, though I noticed his output of actual artwork seemed minimal compared to his photos of cafes and parties. One night in December, as I prepared for finals in my tiny apartment, I realized something important. I was going to make it. Not because anyone had made it easy for me, but because I had refused to give up. In the darkest moment of my life, I had found a strength I never knew I possessed. 1 year into medical school, I had established a routine that, while grueling, was sustainable. My work in Dr. Collins's lab had evolved from basic assistance to meaningful contribution. I developed a technique for culturing cardiac stem cells that showed promising results, enough that Dr. Collins suggested I lead a small research project exploring its applications. You have an intuitive understanding of research methodology that can't be taught, she told me one afternoon as we reviewed my latest data. Have you considered pursuing an MD PhD? Honestly, I've been so focused on surviving each day that I haven't thought that far ahead, I admitted. Dr. Collins had become more than a boss or even a mentor. She was the most significant female influence in my life. Brilliant, but practical. Demanding, but fair. She represented everything I aspired to be as a physician and scientist. Well, start thinking about it, she advised. Your project has significant potential. The cardiac regeneration field is desperate for new approaches, and your technique shows real promise. My personal life had also found a new equilibrium. The crushing loneliness of those first months had eased as I formed friendships with several classmates who shared my passion for medicine. We studied together, supported each other through difficult exams, and occasionally even made time for movie nights or cheap dinners out. Amelia, a fellow first-generation medical student, had become particularly close. You're the most resilient person I know, she told me once. Most people would have crumbled after what your family did. I nearly did, I reminded her. But you didn't, she insisted. That's what matters. Jennifer had moved to Chicago for a job opportunity, but remained my steadfast friend through weekly video calls. Have you heard anything from the family? She asked during one such call. Mom still texts occasionally, I replied. Dad and Tyler, not at all. And how do you feel about that? I considered the question carefully. Sad, sometimes, but mostly peaceful. There's something liberating about not having to constantly seek their approval anymore. In April of my second year, something unexpected happened. Dr. Collins called me into her office, her expression uncharacteristically animated. The American Cardiac Association is interested in your research, she announced without preamble. They've invited us to present at their annual symposium. That's incredible, I stammered. But they want you to present, surely. No, Sarah. They want us to present. Your name will be first on the paper. This is your technique, your innovation. I've merely guided you. The validation was overwhelming. All those hours hunched over microscopes, all those weekends sacrificed to the lab while my peers relaxed, were finally bearing fruit. More importantly, our research held potential to help heart attack patients recover more completely. The purpose Dr. Collins had spoken about, beyond spite or ambition, was becoming clear to me. The symposium was scheduled to coincide with Harvard Medical School's annual gala, an elaborate fundraising event that brought together alumni, faculty, current students, and potential donors. Dr. Collins suggested we present a preliminary version of our research there as well. The gala receives considerable media attention, she explained. Having your innovation highlighted there could attract additional funding for further research. My life had acquired a momentum that sometimes left me breathless. Between advanced medical courses, lab research, preparing for the symposium, and my part-time job at the campus coffee shop, still necessary to cover living expenses, I barely had time to sleep. Then, 2 weeks before the gala, I received an email that stopped me cold. Sarah, I hope this message finds you well. Your mother and I have been following your progress through Dr. Winters, who has been kind enough to keep us updated occasionally. We understand you're doing quite well in your studies, which comes as no surprise. We've also learned about your upcoming presentation at the Harvard Medical School Gala. Your mother and I would very much like to attend to support you. Tyler will be visiting from Paris that week as well and express his interest in seeing your work. Please let us know if this would be acceptable. Regards, Dad. I stared at the screen, emotions churning. After nearly 2 years of silence, after stealing my money and crushing my dreams, they wanted to simply reappear in my life as if nothing had happened? I forwarded the email to Dr. Collins with a simple question. What should I do? Her response came within minutes. My office, now. When I arrived, she gestured for me to close the door. Family situations are complex, she began. I can't tell you what to do here. But you have an opinion, I prompted. Several, she acknowledged with a slight smile. The question is, what do you want? I considered this. Part of me wants to tell them to go to hell. A reasonable response. Another part wants them to see how well I've done despite their betrayal. Also understandable. And a tiny, pathetic part still wants their approval, I admitted. Which makes me angry at myself. Dr. Collins leaned forward. Sarah, wanting parental approval doesn't make you pathetic. It makes you human. The question is, will their presence help or hinder you at an event that should be celebrating your achievement? I thought about it. I think I need to face them sometime, and maybe doing it in a setting where I have the upper hand would be easiest. Then there's your answer. She paused. Would you like me to arrange for their tickets? That way you wouldn't need to communicate directly. I nodded gratefully. Thank you, for everything. Don't thank me yet, she replied cryptically. The gala still has a few surprises in store. As the event approached, my anxiety increased. Preparing for my research presentation was the easy part. I knew our work inside and out. Preparing to face my family after everything that had happened was infinitely harder. Tyler's social media had gone suspiciously quiet in recent months. His early posts from Paris had featured elaborate descriptions of his artistic breakthroughs and name-dropping of famous mentors, but those had gradually tapered off. His last post, 3 months ago, had been a vague comment about artistic reassessment and exploring new directions. The night before the gala, Amelia helped me select an outfit. You need to look like the medical prodigy you are, she declared, holding up a sleek navy dress I'd splurged on with my last research stipend. I'm not trying to impress them, I protested weakly. Amelia fixed me with a knowing look. Honey, yes you are, and that's okay. Just remember, you've already won. No matter what happens tomorrow, you've won. I fell asleep that night thinking about how far I'd come from the devastated girl sobbing on Jennifer's couch. Whatever happened at the gala, I had built something valuable from the ashes of betrayal. That was a victory no one could take from me. The Harvard Medical School Gala transformed the austere Tosteson Medical Education Center into a glittering venue worthy of a royal reception. Crystal chandeliers hung from ceilings usually decorated with anatomical charts. White-gloved servers circulated with champagne flutes. Distinguished physicians, wealthy donors, and promising students mingled in formal attire. I arrived early at Dr. Collins's insistence. I need you centered and focused before your family appears, she explained as she introduced me to key faculty members and potential research sponsors. In my navy dress and borrowed pearl earrings, I looked the part of the promising young researcher, even if my insides were twisted with anxiety. They're here, Amelia whispered, appearing suddenly at my elbow. 3 o'clock, just entering. I turned casually, as if surveying the room, and spotted them immediately. My father, distinguished in his tuxedo, his hair grayer than I remembered. My mother, elegant but nervous, clutching her evening bag like a shield. And Tyler, who looked different. Gone was the artistic dishevelment and confident smirk. He appeared thinner, subdued, his designer suit hanging slightly loose on his frame. Are you okay? Amelia asked, squeezing my arm. Surprisingly, yes, I realized. Seeing them produced less emotional turmoil than I'd expected. They looked smaller, somehow less intimidating than the giants who had dominated my childhood. Dr. Collins appeared at my side. Your presentation is in 20 minutes. Your family can wait. Focus on your moment. I nodded gratefully and retreated to review my notes. One final time. The presentation itself was brief, just 10 minutes highlighting our innovative approach to cardiac stem cell cultivation and its potential applications. But those 10 minutes represented 2 years of relentless work, countless sleepless nights, and a triumph over circumstances that should have defeated me. When I took the small stage set up at one end of the ballroom, I immediately spotted my family in the audience. They had positioned themselves near the back, my father's expression unreadable, my mother's anxious, Tyler's oddly blank. I took a deep breath and began. Heart tissue damage was once considered permanent, I stated, my voice steady and clear. Our research challenges that paradigm. As I moved through my presentation, displaying slides of microscope images and data charts, I felt a sense of power I'd never experienced before. This was my territory. Here, I wasn't the overlooked daughter, or the emotionally volatile disappointment my father had dismissed. I was a researcher on the cutting edge of cardiac medicine, contributing to knowledge that could save lives. The audience response was enthusiastic, with several physicians approaching afterward with questions and comments. I handled each inquiry with confidence, acutely aware of my family watching from a distance but not yet approaching. "Magnificent job," Dr. Collins murmured as the formal dinner portion of the evening began. "Now, prepare yourself. The dean is about to make some announcements, and then I suspect your family will make their move." I was seated at a table with other research fellows, thankfully far from where my family had been placed. Throughout the elegant three-course meal, I caught my mother watching me, her expression a mixture of anxiety and what looked strangely like pride. My father maintained his clinical detachment, while Tyler stared mostly at his plate, occasionally glancing around the room as if searching for exits. After dessert was served, Dean Harrington approached the podium. A distinguished cardiologist, before moving into administration, he commanded immediate respect when he spoke. "Each year at this gala, we celebrate not only our past achievements, but our future promise," he began. "Tonight, I'm particularly pleased to announce a new initiative that will shape that future in significant ways." The room fell silent as he continued. "The Collins Scholarship for Medical Innovation will provide full tuition, research stipend, and living expenses for one exceptional medical student each year, who demonstrates both academic excellence and extraordinary perseverance in the pursuit of medical knowledge." Murmurs rippled through the audience. Dr. Collins hadn't mentioned any new scholarship program to me. "This endowment," the dean continued, "generously funded by Dr. Abigail Collins through a portion of her recent Lasker Award funds, will ensure that brilliant minds are not deterred from medical careers by financial obstacles or other barriers." He paused, scanning the room. "It is my great pleasure to announce that the inaugural recipient of this prestigious scholarship is second-year medical student Sarah Mitchell, whose groundbreaking work in cardiac regeneration you witnessed earlier this evening." The room erupted in applause. I sat frozen, unable to process what was happening. "Ms. Mitchell," the dean added, "exemplifies not only academic brilliance, but the perseverance this scholarship was designed to reward. Despite significant personal and financial obstacles, including having to overcome what Dr. Collins has described as extraordinary family challenges, she has maintained exceptional academic standing while advancing meaningful research." I felt every eye in the room turn to me, including the shocked gazes of my parents and brother. Dr. Collins had orchestrated this moment perfectly, publicly acknowledging my achievement while subtly exposing my family's betrayal to the entire medical community. "Ms. Mitchell, would you please join me at the podium?" the dean requested. On shaking legs, I made my way forward, acutely aware of my family's stunned expressions. As I accepted the ceremonial certificate, the dean added, "This scholarship is retroactive to the beginning of your medical education and will continue through completion of your MD-PhD, should you choose that path." The applause was thunderous. Through tear-blurred eyes, I saw my father's face, ashen with the public revelation of his lack of faith in me. My mother covered her mouth with her hand. Tyler stared at the floor. "Would you like to say a few words?" the dean asked. I hadn't prepared anything, but as I faced the audience, the words came naturally. "2 years ago, I was told I wasn't cut out for medicine," I began, my voice steady despite my racing heart. "That I was too emotional, too sensitive for this path. Today stands as evidence that perseverance matters more than discouragements, no matter their source." I paused, finding Dr. Collins's encouraging gaze in the crowd. I'm profoundly grateful to Dr. Collins, who saw potential where others saw limitations. This scholarship represents not just financial support, but a belief in the power of determination to overcome obstacles. I promise to honor that belief through my work, both in research and eventually in patient care. The standing ovation that followed felt surreal. As I returned to my seat, I caught glimpses of my family. My father's rigid posture, my mother's tears, Tyler's apparent discomfort. Part of me felt vindicated by their discomfort, but another part recognized the hollow victory of proving oneself to people who should have believed in you from the start. After the formal proceedings concluded, guests began mingling again. I was immediately surrounded by faculty members and fellow students offering congratulations. Through the crowd, I could see my family huddled in conversation, occasionally glancing in my direction, but making no move to approach. Dr. Collins appeared at my side. "They're trying to decide whether to face you or flee," she observed. "My money's on flee." "You planned this," I said, not accusingly but with wonder. "The scholarship, the announcement, all of it." "The scholarship was always my intention," she replied. The timing of the announcement was strategic. Why didn't you tell me? Because your genuine reaction was important. And because sometimes, Sarah, justice needs a public forum. She squeezed my hand. They're coming over. Remember who you are now. Indeed, my family was approaching, my father leading with determined steps, my mother and Tyler trailing behind. I straightened my spine and waited. Congratulations, Sarah, my father said stiffly when they reached me. This is quite an achievement. Thank you, I replied, surprised by my own calm. It's been a challenging journey. An uncomfortable silence followed, broken by my mother stepping forward to awkwardly embrace me. You look wonderful, sweetheart. So professional. We're very proud. The words that once would have meant everything now rang hollow. Are you? I asked quietly. That's new. My father cleared his throat. Perhaps we could speak privately. There seemed to be some misunderstandings to address. I don't think we need privacy, I replied. Everything that needs saying can be said right here. Tyler, who had been hanging back, finally spoke. Nice job with the research thing. Sounds important. It is important, I confirmed. It has potential to help patients recover from heart attacks with minimal tissue damage. What about your art, Tyler? I haven't seen much of it online lately. He flushed, looking away. Paris didn't really work out. What Tyler means, my father interjected, is that he's taking a different direction with his studies. He's enrolled in business courses now. The art school wasn't what I expected, Tyler added defensively. Too pretentious. And French people are rude. I couldn't help the small smile that curved my lips. So the once-in-a-generation talent didn't pan out? Sarah, my mother chided softly, don't be unkind. Unkind? I repeated, amazed at her blindness. You emptied my life savings to fund his failed art adventure, told me I wasn't cut out for medicine, and now you're concerned about kindness? My father's jaw tightened. We made a parental decision we believed was best at the time. Best for who? I challenged. Not for me. And apparently, not even for Tyler. We were wrong, my mother said suddenly, tears filling her eyes. We were wrong about everything. About you, about Tyler, about what would make our children happy and successful. My father looked as though he'd been slapped, but after a moment, he nodded stiffly. Your mother is right. We miscalculated, severely. The Paris school kicked me out after the first semester, Tyler admitted, staring at his shoes. Said my work was derivative and uncommitted. I've been living in Dad's vacation condo in Florida, pretending to still be in Paris. This revelation stunned me into momentary silence. All that sacrifice, all that favoritism, all that certainty about Tyler's extraordinary talent. For nothing. I'm sorry, Sarah, Tyler continued, finally meeting my eyes. I was a selfish jerk. I didn't deserve that money, and you didn't deserve what happened. His apology, unexpected and seemingly genuine, pierced through the armor I'd built around my heart. We want to make amends, my father said, his clinical detachment finally cracking to reveal something like remorse. We can repay the money with interest. It won't erase what happened, but it's a start. I considered his offer, aware of the irony. Now that I had the Collins scholarship, I didn't actually need their money anymore. But this wasn't really about the money. It never had been. I don't want your money, I said finally. What I wanted was your belief in me, your support. Those things can't be repaid with a check. Then what can we do? My mother asked desperately. How do we fix this? You don't, I replied simply. Some things can't be fixed. They can only be acknowledged and learned from. I've built a life without your support. I have mentors who believe in me, friends who stand by me, and work that fulfills me. I don't need you anymore. Not the way I once did. My father flinched at my words, perhaps hearing the echo of his own dismissal of me 2 years earlier. But, I continued after a moment, that doesn't mean there's no path forward. It just won't be the same path we were on before. What does that mean practically? My father asked, reverting to his preference for concrete terms. It means I'm setting boundaries. I'll consider occasional family dinners, holiday gatherings, normal communication, but I won't pretend the past didn't happen, and I won't tolerate any more attempts to control my choices or undermine my confidence. My mother nodded eagerly, while my father seemed to be processing my terms like a contract negotiation. And Tyler, I added, turning to my brother, I forgive you, but forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting or pretending. It means I'm not letting what happened continue to poison my life. Tyler nodded, looking both relieved and ashamed. I'm going to community college now, he offered, studying graphic design. It's less pretentious. I hope you find your path, I said sincerely. As our conversation concluded, Dr. Collins approached. Sarah, there are several researchers eager to discuss potential collaborations with you. When you're ready, of course. My family took the hint and retreated, my mother promising to call soon, my father giving a formal nod, Tyler offering an awkward wave. Watching them walk away, I felt lighter somehow. The confrontation I'd feared for so long had come and gone, leaving neither the vindication nor reconciliation I might have imagined, but something more nuanced. The freedom of having spoken my truth and set my boundaries. Over the following months, I rebuilt a different kind of relationship with my family. Not the close-knit bond some families enjoy, but a measured connection based on clear boundaries and new respect. My father, perhaps the most changed by the experience, occasionally asked thoughtful questions about my research. My mother made efforts to connect without smothering or comparing. Tyler and I developed a cautious friendship based on our shared experience of parental expectations, though in vastly different forms. The Collins Scholarship transformed my medical school experience. Freed from financial worry, I could fully immerse myself in both clinical training and research. Our cardiac regeneration project advanced to clinical trials, with Dr. Collins insisting I remain centrally involved despite my junior status. You'll be running your own lab someday, she predicted. Sooner than you think. The greatest transformation, however, was internal. The betrayal that once defined me had become just one chapter in a longer story. The anger that once fueled me had been replaced by something more sustainable: purpose. In my third year, I began mentoring a first-year student named Lucia, whose parents had cut her off when she chose medicine over the family real estate business. Seeing her struggle with the same doubts and hurts I had faced, I found myself sharing Dr. Collins's wisdom. Spite will get you through the first year, I told her over coffee one exhausted evening. But to sustain a medical career, you need to find a deeper purpose. What's yours? She asked. I considered the question carefully. Helping patients, of course, but also creating spaces where people like us, who had to fight extra hard to be here, can thrive. Maybe someday changing the system itself. As I spoke those words, I realized how fully I had transformed my pain into purpose. The betrayal that should have ended my medical career had instead forged it into something stronger, more resilient, and ultimately more compassionate. 2 years after the gala, at the midpoint of my MD-PhD program, Jennifer visited from Chicago. We sat in my new apartment, considerably more spacious than my first tiny studio, reminiscing about how far I'd come. Remember when you showed up at my door, crying that everything was over? She asked. It felt that way, I admitted. I couldn't imagine a path forward. And now look at you, published researcher, top of your class, mentor to others. I smiled, thinking of all the twists my journey had taken. The funny thing is, if my parents hadn't betrayed me, I might never have met Dr. Collins, might never have discovered my passion for research, might have had an easier path but missed my true calling. So you're saying it was a blessing in disguise? Jennifer asked skeptically. No, I replied firmly. What they did was wrong. Full stop. But what I did with that wrong, what I built from it, that's where my power was all along. We have all faced betrayals, moments when the people we trusted most proved unworthy of that trust. These moments have the power to define us, but only if we let them. The greater power lies in choosing what we build from the broken pieces. For me, it was a medical career more meaningful than I could have imagined. For you, it might be something entirely different, but the lesson remains the same. Our deepest wounds can become our greatest sources of strength, not because the wounding was justified, but because our response to it reveals character that might otherwise have remained undiscovered. Have you experienced a betrayal that initially felt devastating, but ultimately led to unexpected growth? Share your story in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe to hear more journeys of resilience and transformation. Remember, Sometimes the path we fight hardest to walk becomes the one most worth traveling. Thank you for joining me today, and may you find the strength to transform your own setbacks into stepping stones.